Good evening, fans. Tim Kitzrow here, the voice of NBA Jam, and you're listening to the Game Dev Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by CodeWritePlay.com. Whoa, boom shakalaka.
My mom gave birth in 1985. I was bluer than a Pac-Man ghost, barely alive. In the Cold War, my only blanket was Tetris. I played Rampart with Reagan, rampaged the world for breakfast. The laundromat was my sanctuary, the arcade was my church.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Game Dev Breakdown. My name is Todd Mitchell. As you well know, probably, if you're still listening at this point, I am back in the studio. The studio is almost finished. I've hung up really cool curtains like every noteworthy podcaster you've ever heard of, just in case that was the trick. I'm going to put my foam acoustic panels back up on the wall in front of me. You can probably tell the tone is not perfect in here. I apologize. However, I think I get many less complaints than I get from myself. I am my own worst critic on the sound and production quality of this podcast. Anyway, I apologize for the inconsistency in recording recently. There are a number of reasons for that. When we last left off, I mentioned that I was leaving the country and sort of re-entering the country. Basically, we went through Canada to Alaska and back. My wife and I, we haven't had a trip like that in a really long time, and it was actually very awesome. Fun fact, this started 1 minute ago now as a test recording. I jumped into it. I'm probably going to run with it. This is mostly intended just to be an update on the show. We're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I've got more cool guests lined up. I just haven't been able to schedule and finalize stuff with people because I didn't know when I was going to be back in the studio. I also didn't know how I was going to cover things with between the babysitter, the personal schedule, my wife's work schedule. Like, everybody in the house has their own stuff going on, and we need to sort of make it work. You don't need to care about that. I'll take care of that. Just know that I'm going to start trying to get regular recordings out. I'm going to get guests back in as I get the opportunity. So we've got people I'm talking to. I got a friend at Gearbox I'd like to have on. He seems game to do that ASAP. They just need a couple things from me so they can sort of greenlight the whole thing. I've got a friend working on an indie game that I will announce soon. Talking to our buddy Jordan, who was on not too long ago. We got kind of a fun idea for a show that we want to try. And I think it's going to be, I'd like to sort of like keep it a little bit more lighthearted. I'm sure you got that from the like content creator nights and the friends I've had on, but I want to do like fun stuff because games are supposed to be about fun. And they haven't been fun enough recently. And I don't mean the games themselves, but I mean the culture is just turning to shit all around us. I mean, is that fair? Is it fair to look around and look at the toxic nonsense from the players to developers, from developers to one another? Like, there's so much shit flying around, and it's not that I have to rant about this again like I just did not too long ago, but I think it's important that we remind ourselves why we're here and why we're doing this. It's supposed to be to have a good time. It's supposed to be for a good time, because we're fans of technology and interactivity and creative pursuits. These are all supposed to be fulfilling and rewarding things. And I feel like sometimes we're letting that sort of slip between the cracks while we worry about, there are things worth worrying about. There are problems in the industry because it's an industry. It's a place where people work and live, and it takes over their lives, and they're clawing their way in or clawing their way out in some cases. I think we need to be aware of that, sure, but we also need to remember sort of that time we first discovered this pastime as kids or young adults, whenever it was, and look back at that thing and go like, what was that spark that captured my attention and just made my imagination run wild? Let's just because we're grown-ups doesn't mean we can't reconnect with that, right? Like, I can remember playing my NES as a kid and going, oh my god, these unlimited possibilities, this is so cool, I want to work and do stuff like this one day. Wasn't even sure if that was possible, but everybody's got some version of that. If they're an indie, if they're a pro, if you're a hobbyist, you've got some version of that you connected with. And even if you're a player or a content creator, like, you didn't pick this the same way someone else picked accounting. This wasn't like you didn't flip a coin, you were drawn to this. And so we need to be able to reconnect with that sort of at a moment's notice when things start turning to shit. And go, but we get to work in games and we get to play games and we're talking about games. Somebody, I'll admit I sort of dressed somebody down a little bit last night. This was a streamer on Twitter who had sort of just launched into this tirade against somebody I'm friends with on Twitter, who is in the development space. And I can't really tell if they knew who this guy was and what he did or not, but it was basically, the person I knew said something to the effect of, does it seem like content creators are getting more angry and more hostile and more, just doom and gloom all the time, worse than they were before? And okay, fine. Maybe you agree with that. Maybe you don't. But this dude launches into like, the game studios and the game publishers get away with these scummy tactics and blah, blah, blah. And people should be angry. People should be more and more hostile as time goes by because we need that. We need these people to be angry. And I'm like, dude, what? My comment was actually something to the effect of like, yikes. And he took issue with that. And I kind of fired back a little bit at him. I don't normally spend my time that way, but this dude, I could tell was I could tell because I checked his profile, but this was an adult with a job in technology and not in games. And to me, this may be unpopular. I think you need to hit a certain age and be able to turn that off. I'll get into something for fun and I'll rant a little bit, but not like to come attack someone to go, you people, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't do that. I don't think. This was that. This was like, you studios and you publishers and blah, 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 all these scummy tactics. And I'm like, dude, I was like, first of all, why the blanket statements? Do we have to have that? Do we have to have every person involved in games is guilty for all the sins of all the other people involved in games? Because that, I'll get out right now. I don't want to answer for the things that people at EA are doing. I don't want to answer for the things that Cliff Bleszinski goes and mouths off to anybody who will listen. I don't want to be responsible for the people who say games are strictly a vehicle for feminism or there's no room for feminism in games. I don't want either side of almost any issue I can think of. I don't want to answer for that. So I don't want somebody from the outside coming in and going, you game developers. Full stop. You game developers. Like, that's not ever a way to communicate with people. And that goes far beyond gaming, as I'm sure I don't have to explain. You don't just go around going, you people. Because it's never correct. That's never correct. So then this person, like, had made a connection between, like, well, things are getting worse. You would never look at an injured person who got, it was a really stupid metaphor, but it was like, you would never take an injured person who got injured worse and be angry with them because they were yelling louder because they got hurt more. And I'm like, dude, are you really connecting video games to basically kicking a wounded person? That seems a little extreme, again, for an adult. Little extreme. And I went to bed after that because it was last night, and I woke up to like 10, at least 10 notifications about this. And here's how I know that I'm ready for the next level of success. I didn't give a shit what any of them said. I went in and cleared them out. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't read any. I skimmed them, just to get some idea about, like, is there any chance this person went, yeah, you're right. I came on a little strong. Not at fucking all. Not at all. And that's fine. You don't have to. I guess the point is just that, like, we need to remember what we're doing here. Because I'll tell you, like, you might know, I'm sure you've got people in your life that aren't involved in games, and I'm sure you've tried to talk to them at some point about the things that are going on in the gaming community, and I bet it didn't go well. I bet they didn't understand. I bet they looked at you like, you're talking about video games? And that's why you're upset, and this other person's upset, and people are doing what to each other? Again, this is a balance thing, because on one side, like, yeah, you've got to wake up and go, like, it's kids' toys, right? Like, this is just fun silliness. And on the other hand, yeah, people's lives are intertwined in this stuff, and you've got an industry full of people who are trying to make a living and trying to get by, and they've moved somewhere and left their family behind because they are passionate about this practice, and this practice could make or break them. It could destroy them and leave them with nothing, or it could make them, or they could leave an impact on it forever, and we'll read about them in the history books. It's cool in that regard. And I understand the passion from that regard. But if you're a YouTuber, if you're a Twitch streamer, if you're an indie who does something else during the day, if you have the luxury of shutting it off, do so when it gets this heated. Don't let it take over your mind. Don't let it take over your life. Don't let it change the person that you are, because that's what this was. I was talking to our buddy Matt about this. I should have just had him on for this episode. That's what this was. This was not raging for a cause. This was raging to rage. This was raging because I've become a bitter, angry fucking person. You don't have to live your life like that. I don't believe you have to live your life. I certainly don't. Like, I feel like I'm driven and on point with the objectives I've set for myself. Like, I don't think I'm constantly driven by rage. I'm a person who will rant, and it gives us something to talk about here. And I get to bounce ideas back and forth with you guys. I'm never fighting with people about this stuff we talk about on the show. There have been people like the guy I'm talking about who have come and gone, well, here's why you're wrong and you're childish and this is stupid and here's why you should quit. I don't have to, I'm not obligated to take that person seriously, and I don't, and I will not be kind, because kindness goes both ways, obviously. But otherwise, this is such a fun thing for me because I get to go to the community, and that includes AAA's, indies, hobbyists, content creators, and we just get to share ideas. And it's fun. This is fun stuff to talk about. That's what it's supposed to be. We don't have anything in the game industry that's like the equivalent of like Sunday football. I guess you can look at GDC, like annual stuff, but like there's no weekly thing. Maybe I'm stumbling upon something important here that I've never really thought about. There's no Sunday football for gaming. My friends and I have tried to get a gaming night going, and like every Wednesday for a very long time now, we've tried to get on and play games, and it works sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure sports fandom is the same way. But you have an option where you can get into something, and you can get a little group, and you play, and you talk, and you share ideas. I think that's, at this age, that's what it's all about. I've talked on previous episode about the different stages of life and what gaming means to you at that time and what you want to get out of it. And a lot of times as an older person, like it becomes social and it becomes an experience that you want to have with family and friends and loved ones. You would connect with your kids over it and connect with, you know, your brother-in-law who maybe you don't have as much in common with, but you both love Ninja Turtles on the arcade cabinet. There are ways to use this as a connection thing. And that's what I love about this podcast, because I do have friends I get to do this with all the time, but this is a much wider community thing. Believe me, this isn't something that's like, I do this for the paycheck, because that's absurd. We just finished September, which was the time we launched season 3 right on September 2nd. I'm going to try to commit to no longer acting like there's a giant team on this. Obviously, I run this all. So for better or for worse, this is basically a one-man operation. So I launched season 3 on September 2nd, and I remember that date because I sent it around to a bunch of potential ad partners, some of which came through and some of which did not. So we basically went through all of September minus the last like day or two I could have put a show out. We hit the schedule almost the entire time, and I'm pretty sure I'd have to go back and look down to like the dollar and cents, but I think the podcast paid for itself for like the second time in a month. I look at it monthly and the bills it costs for like SoundCloud Pro, which is where I host, and you could sort of factor in the website, but I'd have the website going either way, so I don't really count that. But it was not the most popular month, but it was the second most popular, and it just barely paid for itself. That's to illustrate that I do this because I enjoy the connection with people. I enjoy the people I get to meet, the people I get to have on the show, and I really enjoy the people who come to me afterwards and go, hey, I listened to that. I thought it was good. And I mean, feedback is fine if you have some. Don't force feedback because it will feel awkward. But if it got you thinking about something, that's the stuff I really enjoy hearing. I like to hear like we have a couple of guys in the Patreon group who are really good about this. They'll listen to a show and go, I loved this point. I loved this one part this one thing that the guest said, and I thought it was so interesting, and it reminded me of something. I love hearing that next thing. That next thing that it sort of stimulated in your brain, because there's almost no other way to get that. It's so hard to navigate a conversation just the right direction to capture that interesting thought you had locked away in your brain. The brain is so fascinating in that way. We store so much. And sometimes the only way to get to those things, this is something else me and Matt have sort of talked about. Like, there are certain things that you can only get by digging a little bit. And you're not intentionally digging, but you're talking about, you're playing a game, you're talking about games. One thing leads to a memory. That memory leads to just a little philosophical thing or a little other story that you can bounce back and go, we had something like that. Here's what happened with me. I can't tell you how rewarding that is. And part of something else we've talked about, part of the reason that sometimes it's a little bit hard to just keep forcing myself, like, get back on the mic, keep doing shows, keep the thing going, is because podcasting is very unique in one regard. The way people consume podcasts, and I was a fan of talk radio for a long time growing up. I was a fan of podcasts for a long time before I started doing them. It's unique in that the people who consume them, the closest connection is it's similar to the way you would consume like talk radio. You would be driving in the car. It's this hopefully it's a reliable thing that you can turn on certain days and according to a certain schedule. And you listen to it, and maybe it's comforting to you because you get to leave it on and it makes you think about things, and maybe you like it or maybe you don't, but it keeps your brain going and you appreciate it for that reason. But the part where you would normally, if it was an article, a Facebook post, a tweet, an Instagram photo, like so many comparable things get so much feedback compared to podcasting. Sometimes it's like I talk into this microphone, the words stay inside that microphone, and no one ever hears it. I know that's not true because we actually do pretty good numbers now. The download numbers, you can actually, if you go to SoundCloud and find Game Dev Breakdown on SoundCloud, you can see some of the download numbers, and it's neither here nor there, but it gives you an idea. Like, well, it's usually no problem to come up with like at least like 750 downloads in the first so many days, and then it climbs from there. And a lot of the episodes, some of the episodes from season 2 are pushing like 2,000 now, which is great. Like, I came in not really knowing what good numbers would be. I know what good numbers are now, but so it's weird. It's like I can see that like many people will hear it, and you'd be surprised how few people reach out. And this is not like a rebuke or criticism in any way, but it's just an interesting little tidbit. Like, you can get into this and you could start doing this stuff, and you may not hear a thing from anyone. And a bunch of people will like retweet it and share it on Twitter. They might share it on Facebook, post it around. I say all the time, like, share this with a friend if you know somebody who's into this kind of stuff. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But like, I can easily go a week without hearing from anyone. It got a little better when I started bringing guests on regularly, because people, like, each guest has an audience that sort of travels around with them, follows them, and looks at the stuff they retweet and the stuff that they're excited about. Hey, I'm going to be on a podcast called Game Dev Breakdown this week, and the next week they're on a different one, and that's all. And I'll go listen to that other one. Like, I'm in here because I love this content. I like hearing from these people. I'm not stingy in any way on that. But so, it becomes a thing when you try to have guests on like every week or every couple of weeks. It's like you're traveling from community to community, and hopefully your community gets larger, their community gets larger, because they're bringing in, like, hopefully some Game Dev Breakdown fans become fans of David Fox or Richard Rouse, the people we've had on recently. Of course, I would encourage everybody to do that. Like, these people are well worth following and hearing, or I wouldn't even think to have them on the show, really. But so since we started doing that, the feedback has picked up some. But like, the people who are just used to listening to Game Dev Breakdown, who I appreciate so much, this is not a complaint, but like, it can become a somewhat lonely experience. And I don't just say this for like an emotional reason, or like a reason that like, well, sometimes we don't do it because sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter if I do or not. That's not really what I'm saying. It becomes important when it comes to stuff like reviews. If someone listens for a while and doesn't leave a review, that sort of hurts a little bit. Like, not hurts me personally, it hurts the show, because the algorithms in the podcast stores and the directories that list the show, it's hard to keep a ranking system for podcasts if you don't use something like reviews. You can use downloads, but people can sort of game that system, and you don't want to spend all your time trying to work around that and determine what's legitimate and what's not. But people will look at the reviews because usually it's kind of hard to game that. And people do not want to take time to do that. I don't either. It takes a long time to do, relatively speaking. And it's like, do I have to log into Apple Podcasts? Do I have to sign in somewhere? I'm not doing this. I get it. But so feedback becomes a little bit of a reason that it's hard to keep it rolling on a super consistent basis. Hey, buddy. What you doing, pal? All right, I'm sure you heard that. That was my son running in. And I told him I need just a few minutes to wrap this up. So the point of all this was just simply to say, because it's difficult to the way my schedule is set up and the way it goes with certain guests, get people in. If you think about it, if you think about what it would be like to interview people on a regular basis in the game industry, you would realize very quickly that scheduling is one of the hardest things to do. Because if you think about the way people's hours are set up, first of all, you've got people in major cities all around the world. Yes, mostly in the US and Canada, maybe the UK, but they certainly are global. And we have proven that in the last year or so because we've had people from absolutely everywhere. And I love that. However, scheduling it is very difficult. Some people are in the US and only work during the day, US and only work during the night. Canada matches up our time zones just fine, but UK, it only works during the day. Well, that's its own thing. So now I'm trying to figure out, do I need to do something at night? Can they do something during the morning? On top of that, I have super bizarre hours because I work independently and also do quite a bit around here to try to keep my own family going. And that comes first, as you can well imagine. So because scheduling is what it is, I do get a certain window almost every single day when, kids in school, wife is working or sleeping for work, that kind of thing. And I can get into the office. I am going to start just cranking out shows on, I've said this before, we've had a variety of formats on the podcast that have been popular in the past. When the podcast first started, it was sort of just here's a news story and here's what I think about it. Or me and a friend would get on and say, what do you think about this? Here's something that's going on. Here's something that happened to me the other day. People liked that. I know you guys love the interviews. I love the interviews because I get to learn from people and meet people, and I love that experience. I know you do too. I'll never stop trying to line those up. But if I sort of run against a wall with scheduling, I will do my best to get behind the microphone, let you guys know what's up, who I'm looking forward to talking to. I think that's a fun thing. We do that with Patreon. I'll get on there and give them the first scoop, of course, because they're supporting the show, and say, hey, here's who I'm working something out with right now. Here's who is lining up their appearance. Here's who I've reached out to, and we have fun sort of speculating who's going to make it on. We talk about things to bring up with guests. But when I can't have a good guest lined up, I will try to get in here on a regular basis and keep the show moving at least. And if you can't stand that, you can let me know, or let's do this. I will make it very clear when when there's a guest, because I'll have their name in the title. And on those other shows, I'll maybe put the name of a news story or a topic that I'm going to talk about. And if you see that pop up on your phone and you roll your eyes, you don't have to listen to that. I've had to tell people in a couple of very rare circumstances, the feedback we do get for the show, that I do get for the show, working on it, is overwhelmingly positive with a couple of exceptions. And in the cases of those exceptions, it was stuff like, I don't understand the existence of this show. And I don't think it meant I don't understand why you think this is a viable thing, but it's I don't understand who would like this. Here's a tip. If you find yourself in that situation, and I'm not trying to be a smartass, this is probably not for you. It's probably not the thing that you want to hear. And, and it's a giant world full of awesome podcasts, many of which have nothing to do with mine, or they're very, very different styles, different beliefs, different philosophy. Go check them out. It's just going to be a better way to spend your time. Now, if you want to come talk to me and say, here's something I think about the way you do things, that's fine. I may react well to that, or I may just say like, agree to disagree, but thanks anyway. I'll try to be gracious, but we can always have a conversation. But there have been people who I've just had to say like, this was clearly never for you. And rather than me feel bad for existing, why don't you just go find something you would rather listen to? So hopefully that's fair enough. I will make it clear when we have guests. I'll try to get the word out in advanced episodes when I have a guest who has confirmed. I try not to spread anyone's name around who we don't at least have a confirmed date and time on my calendar set up. So like we're going to do a Skype call next Monday, 1 p.m. Central. Then I will be willing to go like, hey, we're expecting to hear from so-and-so. If it's just somebody I've reached out to or somebody who has said like, yeah, I'd like to do the show, there are names I've been sitting on for quite a while just because we haven't worked it out. And I'm very excited about them, but I don't think it's fair to say their name. And, maybe somebody hears that and goes to that person like, hey, when am I going to hear this? I don't want pressure on those people. So we're going to work it out as we get the opportunity. I'll let you know when we do have a guest, what guests are coming up. And if you see something that pops up like JDC wrap up, that may just be me just recapping something or talking about a community topic that came up or somebody who yelled at me on Twitter. I think those things are funny. I was telling Matt, 2 people have raged out on me in the last 24 hours. One was that guy on Twitter, which Godspeed, whatever. Who cares? The whole point was like, who cares? At the end of the day, calm down. It's video games. The other person was somebody who jumped out of the bike lane on the highway to flip me off. And it had nothing to do. I wasn't the vehicle she thought I was. So like she was trying to pull out of the bike lane for some reason to get onto the highway. And needless to say, if any of us see a cyclist on the highway jump into our lane, we slow down and stop or whatever we do because we don't want to hit a bicyclist on our in our car. Well, she like one vehicle went around her and then she like jumped out and had the finger going behind her before she even really looked back. And then she looked back at me, but I think she was like kind of embarrassed and realized what had happened. So like she didn't back down. It wasn't because there's really no like, fuck you. Oh, not you. Sorry. That's a tough one. So she just went with it. And I just thought like, God, what a crazy person. So those are the 2 people who have raged out on me. Anyway, I'll wrap this thing up. Guests are on the way. Sorry that we had a little gap there. I said we were going to like just plow right through the vacation outage. Didn't quite work out that way. So we missed a week or so now. I'm going to try to keep content coming at you because I think I have podcasts I like and I don't ultimately care if they have a guest or not. Like if they try to do interesting things on a regular basis, if we've got a day where we talk about the news and talk about things that are going on, that's all this podcast was for a long time. I hope you guys are cool with that. It did help grow the show in the beginning, and so it must be okay. Let me know. Bring up topics, bring up things you've seen that you think about. People do that all the time and we talk about it and it leads to a good show almost every time. So I'm always happy to hear from you guys about that. I will keep working on guests all the time. I'll let you know when they're coming. And that is about, hey, that's 30 minutes. So, cool. Really appreciate you all for checking out the show. We love your ratings and reviews. And when you reach out, and just don't let it be silent, This is a community thing. This is your show. I want it to be what you all would like for it to be. So get in touch. Have yourselves a good one, and I will be back as soon as possible. See you soon.